Good afternoon. My name is Luciane Balcar. I'm the clerk. I'm from Democratic Services. Just to make everyone aware, I have gone live on YouTube. This meeting is currently being live streamed on YouTube. I'm going to start this meeting by asking the panel to elect a chair for this meeting, please. Okay, Pauline, is over to you.
Thank you very much. Welcome everybody to this hearing. I think probably be starting off with introducing ourselves. So I'm Pauline Jorgensen. I'm the member for Hillside in Early.
I'm Kay Gilder. I'm the member for South Lake Woodley.
And I'm Jackie Rance, member for Shinfield.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Neil Allen. I'm the legal advisor to the panel. If you hear me asking questions today, they're purely on behalf of the panel.
Good afternoon. I'm Marcus Herbert. I'm the Commercial Services Manager.
Good afternoon. I'm Rachel Lucas. I'm the lawyer acting on behalf of the Licensing Authority today.
Good afternoon, my name is Kieran Hinchliffe, I'm a licensing manager.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Glenda Cameron-Lloyd from Public Protection Partnership Trading Standards Service.
Hi, I'm Gary Clark. I'm the licensing officer for Thames Valley Police for the Wokingham area.
Hello, I'm Anna Thompson. I'm representing Public Health.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Vivek Bora and I'm the applicant. Thank you.
Hello, good afternoon. I'm Meninda Kaur, the legal representative for the applicant.
Sorry, just take a second or two. Let's just see if we can get it jacked up a bit. Some quietly spoken people over there. It's all right, I wasn't getting you. Right, so we'll start anyway, whilst we're trying to get the volume sorted out. Are there any interests to declare? Do you have any interests? No, I don't either. Right, thank you. So I'll outline the process and then we should dive in. So the first thing is that the licensing objectives are what we're looking at. So we're looking at whether the application meets the 4 licensing objective, which is the prevention of crime and disorder, public safety, the prevention of public nuisance, and the protection of children from harm. So the first stage is for the licensing officer to introduce the hearing report. The applicant then gets to present their side of the case, and then responsible authorities can make representations, and each responsible authority can include witnesses, and then the applicant can ask any questions they'd like to ask. And that's basically it. So if we start with the licensing officer.
Members are requested to determine the application for a new premises licence in accordance with Section 18.4 of the Licensing Act 2003, having regard to representations received and a requirement to promote the 4 licensing objectives. The purpose of the report provided to you provides the relevant information for the subcommittee. It considered determine the application for Mr. Vivek Bahara, the applicant, for a new premises licence at Brecon Food and Wine, 1 The Parade, Brecon Road, Woodley, that's RG5 4PS. In relation to determining the application, the following options are open to the Licensing Appeals Subcommittee: to either grant the application in full on the terms and conditions contained within the application and to include any applicable mandatory conditions. Secondly, to grant the application as above but modified in such an extent as considered appropriate to satisfy any relevant representations and promote the licensing objectives. Or thirdly, to reject the application. A premises licence is required in respect of any premises where it's intended to conduct one of the 4 licensable activities, these being the sale of alcohol, the supply of alcohol in respect of a club, regulated entertainment, and the provision of late night refreshment. This application was submitted by Mr Vivek Bahara in respect of Brecon Food and Wine, 1 The Parade, Brecon Road, Woodley, for the sale of alcohol. The applicant has applied for the following hours. For sale of alcohol, it's 7 o'clock in the morning until 11 p.m. at night, Monday to Sunday. And similarly, the opening hours for the premises are 7 o'clock in the morning till 11 p.m. Monday to Sunday. By way of background and history of the premises, the previous premises licence was revoked by the licensing subcommittee in May 2025, with the subcommittee finding that the licensing objectives of the prevention of crime and disorder and the protection of children from harm had been undermined. Details of this decision can be found in Appendix C of your report. This decision was appealed by the previous licence holder, Mr Kapoor, and in December 2025, a prosecution case concluded for offences relating to the sale and possession of counterfeit and unsafe alcohol, resulting in guilty pleas, fines totalling £3,800, a victim surcharge of £1,500, and prosecution costs of £3,709, a total financial penalty of £9,029, and forfeiture of all the seized alcohol. Details of this prosecution case can be found at Appendices D, E and F in your report. In February 2025, the appeal was withdrawn on the eve of the scheduled hearing at Reading Magistrates Court, incurring a cost of £1,000.
Sorry, February 26th?
My report as is. It is okay, that's an error in the report, I apologise. Yeah, so that's February 2026. There is now no present authorisation to sell alcohol at the premises. In terms of the operating schedule, as completed by the applicant, this contains additional measures to illustrate how they propose to promote the 4 licensing objectives as required by the provisions of the Licensing Act in 2003. The applicant initially proposed the following measures: CCTV, an incident logbook, staff training, Challenge 25 policy, a refusal register, right to work checks, no self-service of spirits, and invoices to be kept permanently available with all stock purchased from an AWRS registered cash and carry wholesaler. During the application's 28-day consultation period, conditions were agreed with Thames Valley Police, and these can be found at Appendix G. In terms of consultation, the responsible authorities included in the consultation are Thames Valley Police, Royal Berkshire Fire and Rescue Service, Environmental Health, Trading Standards, Public Health, the Planning Authority, a Local Safeguarding Children's Board, and the Home Office Immigration Enforcement. There have been 4 representations from responsible authorities. Firstly, Public Health recommended a number of conditions to support the licensing objectives, including preventing involvement of the previous owner, measures to promote public safety, and responsible alcohol sales, safeguarding children's access to alcohol displays, and confirming that alcohol sales are limited to in-store transactions only. Details of this representation can be found in Appendix H. During the consultation, Thames Valley Police proposed a comprehensive set of conditions, and they were agreed by the applicant, and these can be found at Appendix G. Trading Standards have objected to the application following compliance visits which found that the measures set out in the operating schedule were not being implemented, including a lack of staff training and records, absence of refusal logs, staff inability to operate CCTV, missing public nuisance signage, and invoices for alcohol purchases remaining in the name of the former licence holder. Furthermore, indicating that the licensing objectives, particularly regarding the prevention of crime and disorder and the protection of children from harm, are not being met. Details of the Trading Standards representation can be found at Appendix I. Thames Valley Police support Trading Standards objection, raising concerns that the application seeks to circumvent the appeal against revocation, that the staff appeared unaware of any change in ownership during compliance visits, and that invoices and representation arrangements indicate the former licence holder may still be involved. The police consider that granting the application would undermine the licensing objectives, in particular the protection of children from harm. Details of the Thames Valley Police support application that can be found at Appendix J. The licensing authority, as a responsible authority, strongly objects. This is a further representation from the licensing authority. As a responsible authority, strongly objects to the application, citing the recent revocation of the previous premises licence, the late withdrawal of the appeal, ongoing poor management and compliance failures, absence of a lawful designated premises supervisor, continued involvement of the former licence holder, lack of staff training and operating controls, and the applicant's failure to demonstrate any meaningful departure from past failings. Concluding that granting a licence would undermine the 4 licensing objectives, and details of the licensing department's representation can be found at Appendix K. Subsequent to the report being finalised, 4 additional documents were submitted by the applicant, and these are a National Lottery Test Purchase Certificate of Commitment, which is dated the 4th of December 2023, a management agreement between Kulbir Singh Kapoor and Vivek Bahara, which is undated, and 2 test purchase letters from Trading Standards dated 9th of May 2023 and 9th of September 2024. All those documents should be provided to you with your report. And finally, also subsequent to the report, the Licensing Services Manager wrote to Mr. Bahara on the 2nd of March 2026 regarding alleged contraventions of the Licensing Act 2003, and a copy of this letter has also been provided. The responsible authorities that have made the representation have been informed of the time and date of the Licensing Application Subcommittee hearing, and I believe they're all in attendance this afternoon. And finally, in terms of legal considerations, conditions may only be attached to a premises licence where they are deemed to be appropriate for the promotion of the licensing objectives. They must be proportionate and not duplicate any existing provisions contained in other legislation. The justification behind a refusal or the attachment of conditions must be given to the applicant. The subcommittee is advised that any findings on issues of fact should be on the balance of probabilities, and any decision should be based on the individual merits of the application. The subcommittee, in arriving at its decision, must have regard to relevant provisions of national guidance and its own statement of licensing policy, and reasons should be given for any departure. There is a right of appeal to the Magistrates' Court within 21 days from the date of the applicant is notified of the decision of the Licensing Committee, and that concludes the report from the last. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Herbert. Does any of the panel got any questions for Mr. Herbert? No? Okay. Shall we move on to the applicant?
Thank you. I would just like to give some background in terms of the applicant. Mr. Bahara has lived in Woodley for 12 years and has worked in a local convenience store for over 4.5 years without any licensing breaches. He knows the area well and customers, and has a record of responsible alcohol retailing. He has also gained a personal license in the due course. He became aware of the sale of Brecon Food and Wine as he was a regular customer that would return parcels at that shop. He conducted his due diligence and he has paid £25,000 for the stock and a minimum premium of £15,000 for the shelves and equipment. The management contract yet has not been signed, as he is ongoing to, if the license was to be granted today, he would not go ahead with the management contract and go for a tenure of a lease, and therefore he will be entirely the new owner. But that was something that they had verbally agreed with each other, and that's why the management contract was sent over. I just wanted to clarify.
Sorry, could you just repeat that again a bit slower?
Sorry. So the management contract that was sent over, that has been undated or signed, it was more of a verbal agreement between Mr. Bahara and Mr. Kapoor. The £25,000 stock and the £15,000 premium for the shelves equipment was paid. However, if the license is granted today, then they would look to take over on the lease, and therefore Mr. Bahara would be the official new owner of the premises and that property, and there would be no involvement of Mr. Kulbir Singh. So I just wanted to make that clear before I go ahead. So this sale was agreed while Mr. Kapoor's appeal was going on. However, he could not operate under his own name license. Therefore, he was authorized under his DPS license to sell alcohol. He was going in and out of the business at the time to observe operations, review sale figures, familiarize himself with the shop, as all shops have a different till system, a different layout, to prepare himself for a full takeover. Mr. Bahara is the sole purchase of the business, and Mr. Kapoor will have no financial or any decision-making authority and will not be involved in the business at all. Any reference in the pack where Mr. Kapoor has helped with cash and carry to Mr. Bahara was for him to understand logistically how to hand over things before he took over. He intends to appoint himself as the DPS under his own personal license. He has already agreed to all the conditions for once the license, if it was to be granted. The issues that have been identified was while the license was under Mr. Kapoor's name, however, that's the reason Mr. Bahara could not take over at the time. He has clear plans to rectify the historic failings through full compliance and professional management. There will be CCTV, staff training, strict supply control to ensure compliance occurs. In terms of public safety, fire signage, please leave quietly posters, alarm systems is something that he takes of full importance. There will also be a staff training manual at the premises to ensure all the conditions are adhered to, and including the staff as well. All staff, if the license was to be granted and Mr. Vivek Bahara is in control of Brecon Food and Wine, he will ensure all staff have personal license, so that all personal license holders that have level 2 alcohol retailing. Therefore, we would respectively submit that Mr. Bahara is fit and proper person to hold a premises license. We do understand the letter that has been sent to him yesterday. A van has been arranged for tomorrow for all the alcohol that is yet still in the store to be taken away and to be removed from the premises. He's local to the community. He understands his financial commitment alongside his community commitment towards the public and upholding the 4 licensing objectives, and he seeks the opportunity to restore the premises reputation through lawful and ethical operation. I'm open to any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Has anybody got any questions?
Sorry? Oh.
No, you can ask questions now. Not at the moment? No?
So it's very clear that you are going to be the sole owner, and Mr. He will have nothing to do with the shop. How many staff do you employ, and do you intend to keep on the staff that are there now? And are they aware of the fact that you are going to be the new owner?
So, yeah, I intend to employ at least 2 or 3 people based on the need of the store to open, close, and operate the store. They will be trained, and the staff that are there currently, they do not know that I am going to be the owner of the store. So once I have this license and once everything is gone through, I have taken over the property or the store, then I make the staff aware that I would be the new legal owner of the store, and then I would employ some of the other staff, because I may change the staffs as well, because I do not want those people there who are not well aware or well versed with or can't be trained properly. So yeah.
So you're actually going to replace the staff that are there now?
I will, or I may keep 1 or 2 of them who already know the premises, who are also well versed with the customers who come there regularly. So he would be a known face, or she would be the known face there for me to run the business.
Jackie?
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. So the only thing is that, like she has mentioned, that it was verbally agreed between Mr. Kapoor and myself that if the licensing doesn't go through, then that businesses wouldn't be any good to me. So
Okay,
yeah,
all right. So you've agreed with-
40,000 is agreed.
Well, might I ask then, is there any relationship between you and Mr. Kapoor?
No.
Because you have,
No.
that's quite a risk, isn't it?
Okay,
to
so I have lived in Woodley from 2015, and I know Mr. Kapoor since 2019, because I used to go to return parcels there. I used to live on Headley Road then, which is very close to his store. So that's how we developed a friendship. And then when I came to know about the shop, that it's on sale, so we were in an agreement that once the license is granted, this is the amount we will exchange, and then I will take over the ownership.
But that's quite a commitment to someone who's just your friend, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not like just a friend. I've known him for quite a while now. And if he's selling the business, I know it's a reliable business and it's in the local area. I have lived there since 2015 in Woodley. So, yeah.
Yes, I know the store, I know where it is. Thank you.
Yeah.
Can I ask you, could you explain the bit that you were talking about where what was happening in the process of handover? You mentioned something about your client operating under his personal license. I didn't really understand that.
So it's not personal license. So for a premises license, there's a license holder and a designated supervisor, premises supervisor. Now, while the appeal was going on, that license and appeal was on Mr. Kapoor's name, not his name. But however, because he was in and out the business checking the sales, which is why he gave the £40,000, was because in the meantime he was checking the sale figures, and if any alcohol retailing was going on was under Mr. Kapoor's name. But if he was in and out the business and did sell alcohol, Mr. Kapoor can authorize people on his behalf, such as his staff. So if his staff doesn't have a personal license and they're not the DPS, he's allowed to authorize them to sell alcohol on his behalf, which is what Mr. Vivek was doing at the time.
I've got another question. There was all the bottles lined up in the shop, and you owned it or Mr. Kapoor owned it? Technically. The shop has all the bottles lined up, and you were asked to remove them because all the bottles, and I know you just said you're going to do one tomorrow, but I'm talking about 4 weeks ago when you or Mr. Kapoor asked to remove the bottles of alcohol. Is that right?
Until the 2nd of February, till when his license was under appeal.
But why wasn't it removed then?
He was the owner of
He was the owner then, but
Yeah.
2 weeks later,
Yeah.
it hadn't been done. Who was the owner?
Legally, it's not me yet, but yeah, it's like on a mutual agreement.
But wasn't that a bit of a risk, really? Because
No, we have removed, it's only in the fridge chiller, it's there, but it's covered. The ones behind the till have been removed, one on the shelves have been removed, and because of the storage space, we don't have space to store. We are planning to arrange a space and remove the ones in the fridge also.
But not at the time you were asked to do so.
No, the ones behind the till and on the shelves have been removed, had been removed.
Okay, thank you.
Chair, I've got no questions at the moment, but if the panel is finished, then the parties are entitled to ask questions as well. Thanks, Chair.
You said that the licence conditions, I think that the officer said the licence conditions meant that you couldn't have alcohol on self-service. So how can it be in those open shelves?
So from what I've been told, it wasn't on the shelves and it wasn't behind the counter. What the alcohol that is left on the store is under grey shuttable shutters in the fridge, and that is remaining to be taken out of the store. Is that what you meant, or yeah?
Yeah, so I don't understand why you would put alcohol in a open shelving with a grey shutter on it if you can't actually use the shelving when you do get a licence. Doesn't make any sense.
Sorry, they are in the chillers with shutter. Yeah.
Sorry, are those chillers behind a desk or something?
No.
I'll ask the licensing officer in a minute. Thank you. Oh, one other thing. Have you ever run an off-licence or a shop with a licence before?
Yes, it was Indus Fresh.
Sorry?
Indus Fresh in Woodley.
So he has worked in another shop called Indus Fresh in Woodley.
And was that your shop?
No.
Have you left one job already and had a break and to come into this one? I don't understand. You know, nobody can afford not to work, can they?
I work for Deloitte UK. I am an IT consultant and I want to get into the business also.
So I didn't quite catch that. You've left one job?
No, I'm still working and I managed to run the store as well.
Oh, how's that?
Because 9 to 5 I work and then I manage it with staff.
Okay. But the other thing is the other people at the staff at the shop didn't know that you're probably taking it over.
That's
Is that
right.
correct? So you kept it secret?
It's not a secret. I mean, the staff know me because I've been going there to return parcels and I know Mr. Kapoor as
For
well.
how long have you been going there?
Since 2019.
2019?
2019.
Right, thank you.
Thank you. May I ask to flick through the training folder that you've brought? Thank you.
I'm a little bit confused with respect to this question of ownership of the business, because your application that you submitted quite clearly states the business has been sold to yourself. That's what you put on your application. Is that correct or wrong?
So the documents that were submitted 4 weeks back, they said that the business takeover is on the license approval. So you submitted those documents.
The application, I'm sorry, says it's been sold in the past tense. It hasn't been sold, has it, when you submitted that application?
No.
It hadn't. Okay, thank you.
Quickly, just say it'd be very helpful for the panel's point of view, Gary, for example, if you're saying it's sold in the form, can you point out where in the form it says that, just so we're absolutely clear, and if other parties could keep that in mind when they're asking questions, so the page number?
It's page 14 of your pack.
Thank you very much.
Maybe I could go back and just get it clear in my head again. So the shop hasn't been sold, but the intention is to sell it if the licence is approved. But the £40,000 has been paid?
Not all of it.
How much of it?
15,000.
Okay. And what happens if the licence isn't approved?
So that was the agreement that the money would be returned back to me and I don't take over the business.
But you've bought stock. Oh, God. Sorry about this. But you've paid for stock.
Sorry, Jackie, that's what we're talking about. So the £40,000 was for the stock. And what he's just said is that if the licence is not approved, he'll get the money back.
I'm not sure. Is Kay chairing because she's in the middle, or Pauline's chairing, but not where I expected the chair?
Sorry, just confusing you.
Through you, Chair, perhaps I could ask some questions on behalf of the Licensing Authority. So we've just covered off the sale, and that's been dealt with. But perhaps I could start with the point that you said staff don't know yet that you'll be the owner. You said that, didn't you? I'm just going to turn to page 73, which is the representation put in by the Licensing Authority. And you'll see that Mr. Hinchcliffe, who I act on behalf of Officer Wise, puts in the representations and refers to a visit that he made himself to the premises on the 30th of January. That's at the top of page 74. And he indicates that he's told by the shop assistant that there was a new owner named Mr. Vivek Bahara, who had been involved for approximately 3 months.
Yes, so like I said, and like she mentioned as well, I was going there and in and out to see the sales of the business. Earlier, I had known Mr. Kapoor, but I don't know his business, that what are the sales and what kind of daily sales are happening, how many lotteries are getting sold, how much alcohol is getting sold. So that was the time when I was visiting the store more, and that is when I was familiarized with the staff more. So one of the staff, his name is Sunil, he knew that I will take over, but that was the condition. So that is why when in January one of yourselves visited there, he did call me to ask me that, and I did speak to one of yourselves, and I was told that it was illegal to sell alcohol, but I said I hadn't taken over yet, and that was clear message that I had put out in the call. And then I asked Sunil that I am not the owner yet, so can you please let the gentleman speak to Mr. Kapoor?
So my next question is, you've explained why the application, well, you've explained that even though the application said that the business has been sold, it hadn't been sold. But instead, recently, you put the management agreement before this panel. Now, you've today told the panel that, in fact, the management agreement's not going to be used. Why was it put before them to form part of your submissions if it's not going to be used?
The reason it was put forward was because the client wanted the committee to know that a verbal agreement had been exchanged, so they wanted to put that forward in respect of whatever agreement they had made based on that. But yes, if the license was to be granted today, then that management contract wouldn't be going ahead, and it would be in terms of a lease going ahead, where Mr. Kulbir Singh gives over the lease to Mr. Vivek, and Mr. Kulbir Singh is no longer involved in the business or the property.
Would you agree it's somewhat misleading to put forward a document that you say is not going to be relied upon at all? You put forward a document, the management agreement, and today we hear that there's no intention of relying on any of the terms of that management agreement. Is that right? You will rely on the terms?
Yeah, I mean, he won't be the owner of that store anymore. So if things were moving ahead and I were granted the license, I will take over that store and I'll be the owner.
So you will rely on those terms?
Sorry. What?
So obviously for a lease to occur, it does take some time. So I think what he's trying to say is that he will rely on the terms until a new lease has happened for those management. So the verbal agreement of the 40,000 for him to pay all the £40,000 since he's not already paid all of it, and obviously agree to those terms of the alcohol licensing and everything that's included in the contract up until a new lease has been signed and he has fully taken over. I think that's what he's trying to say.
Now, part 4 of that agreement, which you say will be in place until a lease goes ahead, any breaches need to be reported to the owner, Mr. Kapoor. That suggests he's still going to be in control, doesn't it?
Well, like I said, for a lease to happen, it does take at least 4 to 6 weeks. So I think in the meantime, while that management contract is in place, it would be reported to him as the owner of the property, because he is still the owner of the property until the lease is not in Mr. Vivek's name.
And it also says in there that financial records will be made available to the owner. Is that correct, to Mr. Kapoor?
Sorry, financial records?
The agreement that you have put forward to be considered today by this panel suggests that financial records will be available to be considered by Mr. Kapoor?
No, I don't know.
I think that may have been a mistake when it was sent over, because what I had got sent over from the client is what I put through.
And it also suggests that the stock is to remain the exclusive property of the owner. So Mr. Kapoor will own the stock. Is that correct?
So if I paid for the stock, then that stock belongs to me.
And finally, it suggests that the agreement can be terminated on 90 days' notice by either party. Is that your intention?
No, but again, if there are situations, if I'm terminating the agreement, then I'm handing over the premises license back to the council. It's not going to be used by anyone else other than that premises and me.
So just turning to the DPS situation, do you now have a personal license?
Yes, I do.
And who was that granted by? Which authority?
It's Wokingham Council.
And when was that granted?
21st of January 2026.
So the application you've put in, would it be fair to say you seek to distance yourself from Mr. Kapoor in that application?
Sorry, what was that?
You seek to distance yourself from Mr. Kapoor, and you suggest things are going to be different moving forwards.
Yes.
So why have you also asked the panel to consider a test purchase letter from 2023 and a lotto letter from 2023?
That again was submitted to me by the client. I think they just wanted to show that, yes, the premises did have failings, but at the same time it did have successful tests as well, and that's something they would follow on the positives from that premises.
When you say client, do you mean Mr. Bahara?
Mr. Bahara is a client, that's correct. But these documents were in the premises while he's been going in and out of the property.
So you're suggesting that the premises have had positives, but you're also aware that the licence was revoked, and also that Mr. Kapoor has been criminally convicted of an offence surrounding the premises. Are you familiar with the Wokingham Borough Council Statement of Licensing Policy?
Yes, those 4 objectives.
But there's a Statement of Licensing Policy published by Wokingham Borough Council. Are you aware of it?
No, I wouldn't say yes or lie to you, but no.
So what that says is each application should be considered on its own merits. And of course, this is a new application. But within that application, you've made it very clear that Mr. Kapoor won't have any involvement moving forward.
That's right.
And yet today things have changed slightly in terms of you're now telling this panel that the sale hasn't gone ahead yet, and that indeed until a lease transfer happens, you will be adhering to the terms of the management agreement, which actually require quite heavy involvement from Mr. Kapoor. Would you agree?
No, I wouldn't agree that he would require heavy involvement there. So, like, things that would be reported was if there was any issues within the property, which would still need to be channeled through him. But otherwise, all the sales and the transactions within the store, it would all be me.
That's not what that agreement says, though. Have you seen the agreement?
Yes, I have. The
you've-
management agreement.
Yes, and you've read the agreement,
Yeah.
because it suggests that you need to report various issues back to Mr Kapoor, not just issues with the building.
No, that's correct. And again, that was obviously until he has fully taken over of the property and the premises. Because if the premise is in his name, just because he has a license doesn't mean he's in hold of the whole premises. It would only happen when the whole lease is transferred. So until that happens, then yeah, he would be giving back, or giving him, I wouldn't say like giving back to him anything, but instead of like information, if anything was to do with the premises, as in the shop, like if anything to do with the till, that obviously comes under financial records as well. Because that would still be Mr. Kulbir Singh's property, but until then, when the lease is signed, then it's all Mr. Vivek. But obviously, from the time to up until the signing and completion of the lease, that does take a few weeks of time. So that's why I think those terms were agreed on that basis.
Rachel, can I ask you a question? During the period where the lease is not signed and that we're operating under that management agreement, if there was a licence issued and there was then sale of alcohol to somebody underage or anything like that, who would be legally liable?
Pauline, I'm actually representing the licensing authority as objectors, so it might be best if Neil answers any questions of law that the panel need clarifying.
Thank you. Neil.
Chair, thanks. It's a factual issue I'm trying to establish. I might ask some questions. I can ask them now, if you like, in terms of my understanding. Mr. Barr, I've just asked a few questions, just try and clear this matter up on behalf of the panel. If I remember rightly, the appeal against the licence was withdrawn on the 4th of February. So at that point, the premises licence fell away. So that means that that premises was unlicensed, could not sell alcohol, display alcohol from, let's just say, the 5th of February onwards to this point. Now, we've heard, well, we haven't heard, but we've seen some evidence from the licensing officer that he attended after that, I think on the 15th, the papers are there, the 15th and another date. He found alcohol he considered to be on display. Can I just check, is that correct from your understanding of the event so far? I realise you weren't present when the officer attended, but you spoke to him, didn't you? Can I just check, is that your recollection?
No, I think so. I spoke to the officer.
Yeah.
I spoke to the officer in January, not
In
after
January.
that. Not after that.
Okay, well, you've seen the letters from the officer. I'll just look at them now so I can take you to them. And this is the officer's letter. This is Kieran Hinchcliffe, and Kieran submitted this. Letter's dated the 2nd of March. And, sorry, these are the extra papers, Chair. And we may hear from Mr. Hinchcliffe a bit later on, so I stand to be corrected by anything factually on this. But what he's saying is that there was the visit on the 17th of February, and there was another visit on the 26th of February, and they found alcohol present on the premises itself. Now, you mentioned earlier on that you were authorising sales of alcohol by way of being a DPS.
No.
I thought that was your evidence earlier
No.
on, so sorry.
That was obviously while there was a premises license, and while it was under appeal, the premises license still works, if
Yeah,
that makes sense. To sell
yeah.
alcohol, but obviously from the 5th, alcohol was seized
So-
and not able to sell anymore.
So there was no
So
alcohol
no alcohol
sold.
was being sold.
Okay. The business was still operating from the 5th of February to this point. What was it selling?
The rest of the grocery items, so whether that's confectionery, I think frozen food items, vapes and tobacco can still sell.
Right.
Household items like washing powder, liquid, fairy, like all those pet food. So that was still part of
Okay.
the shop sales.
Okay, and where were those sales going? Who is the beneficiary of those sales?
It is still Mr. Kapoor because I haven't taken over the business.
Okay. All right, Chair, that clears that matter up for me.
Thank you. Maybe you can clear the matter up for me then, which is
Yeah.
if we're in a point where there is a management agreement which puts all the onus back on Mr. Kapoor, but the licence has been granted to, well, the licence has been granted, who's legally responsible for any issues?
It'd be the licence holder. So it'd be Mr. Bahara, as the licence holder, would be legally responsible for Licensing Act issues.
And could you just clarify for my understanding what a personal licence means versus what a premises licence means?
A premises licence deals with it's the authorisation for that premises to have alcohol and other licensed activities, we don't need to go into them here, to be sold or to be those activities be undertaken from that premises. And the premises licence holder is the person, it can be a limited company, who holds that licence, and they are saying, in effect, we will make sure that this premises is conducted in accordance with the 4 objectives in the Licensing Act. A personal licence is a licence that goes to the person themselves and is saying that I will make sure that when I'm conducting activities on a premises, and it can be more than one premises, that person is authorised to sell alcohol. That's my understanding. I'll just give way to the other parties. We've got other legal representatives here, just to make sure that that's agreed or not.
Thank you. So there's no necessity to have a personal licence?
I think I'll let Gary come in.
I was just going to say, to clarify, because you have a personal licence, it does mean that you can take ownership, so you could become what they call the designated premise supervisor of that premise. So therefore, having the personal licence does give Mr. Roy the authority to sell alcohol, but you can even, just to complicate matters even more, probably shouldn't do that. I mean, he could be a DPS or 3 or 4 different premises. So, but that's effectively the personal licence gives him the eligibility to be the designated premise supervisor of that premise.
But you can't sell alcohol if the premises hasn't got a licence?
Correct.
Okay.
Sorry, Chair, I just have a few questions remaining after
Sorry, carry on.
that tidy
Pardon me,
up.
I interrupted you. I got confused.
No, that's no problem at all. So at present, the premises doesn't have a licence, but it's still operating as a convenience store, selling everything else. Who's in charge at the moment?
It is still Mr. Kapoor.
So, despite what was said about it being sold, which we now know not to be true, how is anybody supposed to have confidence that things will change moving forwards?
Well, confidence is not something I can show it to you in a presentation, but yeah, if I was given the license, then I can assure that I will adhere to what are the requirements by the council and as per the 4 objectives, and making sure that the other party has no involvement in it, and because I'm taking over the business anyway, they will not have any involvement, but the involvement that I will seek from them is only up to the running of the business and getting all the information of the different suppliers from them, that's all.
So it's a little concerning that Mr. Hinchcliffe, who sits to my left, wrote a letter yesterday to you and highlighted 2 visits, and these 2 visits took place on the 17th of February and I believe the 26th of February, not by Mr. Hinchcliffe, but he brings the report back. And on both those occasions, there's still alcohol on the premises. And on the 26th of February, there are bottles, maybe non-alcoholic, it may be alcoholic, it may be low alcohol, outside the fridge on the floor. So they couldn't be behind a curtain, could they?
I was made aware of that situation that they were non-alcoholic that was lying on the floor, which I think I found out only a few days back. When I was visiting the store, I was told that they were non-alcoholic. And the ones that are behind the curtain, when one of your representation was there, they just opened the curtain to take the pictures. And what Kapoor told that because he wasn't there at the store for a few days, he was ill, he will get that removed. But if I take over the business and if I have to remove them, I will, like she's already mentioned, that we will arrange for a van to remove that and arrange for a place to store them.
So on the 17th of February, officers were assured they'd be moved by the 23rd of February, and that didn't happen, did it?
Well, like I said, Mr. Kapoor was still is still the owner of the store, and he was supposed to have moved them because he's not supposed to sell those alcohols because there's no premises licenses. So, and he mentioned to the officer that he was ill and he could not remove it, and he asked for some more time for them to be removed. Obviously, the ones on display behind the till and on the shelves were already removed.
That was on the 26th of February he asked for more time, not earlier on the 17th of February.
I'm honestly not aware of that 17th of February situation, because when you mentioned those bottles that were lying on the floor, that is when a few days back when I went there, I was made aware that there was the bottles lying, but they were non-alcoholic. And then I did ask about the alcohol which is in the chiller, and he said that he has made a representation, or he has told to the officer that these alcohol, what is there, he needs some more time to remove them. So, like I said, if I take over the business, I will remove those alcohol. If I make my mind that I am taking the business without the license, but I have no intention to take the business without the license. So it's the onus is all up to him to remove those alcohol.
Would it be fair to summarise by saying you haven't really committed to this business and you won't unless you get this licence?
Well, the sales that I have looked at for the business, at least 40% of the sales are from alcohol. So I wouldn't want to invest in a business where I can't make money out of it. And of course, money in the right way, not in the wrong way.
So it's certainly, there is no done deal so far, is there?
Like I said, I have paid 15,000, but the agreement is that if the license doesn't go ahead, I will get that money back, just to secure that business, so that it's not sold on to anybody else, because I know that area well, I've been living there, so that was the commitment. And because he had mentioned that to me, I said, okay, if that is the case, then I would like to take over the business, but the condition is.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Okay.
Yes, please. So, can I get this clear? In law, the owner of the business is the one that's responsible for these the premises, and Mr. Kapoor is not owner of the business, is in law yet. So, who? Oh, sorry. You get the impression, I just want to know who's legally responsible, because if it's the owner of the premises, he's not here and we can't question him. Sorry. Thank you.
Chair, if I'm just coming on that. The straight answer is that the person responsible for the conduct of the premises to make sure it complies with the Licensing Act is the premises licence holder. They do not have to be the owner of the property. They don't even have to be the owner of the business on there. It is possible that as long as the premises licence holder has got sufficient control over the premises, and they are if you like, they're the person that's appropriate to hold the licence. So there can be a distinction, although of course usually it's the person who owns the whole business is also the premises licence holder. That's the usual scenario, but it's strictly, no, it's the premises licence holder. That's the person saying to you, I will make sure that the premises is conducted in the correct way.
So at the moment there is no licence, so who's liable now?
At the moment, sorry, in terms of, let's just say there was an unauthorised sale of alcohol, it would be the person who has sold the alcohol. And I could imagine, obviously, that is the person who actually sold the alcohol. Equally, an investigation would probably look at the person in charge of the premises, usually the owner. So I would expect that if there was, we are not in dealing with that situation here because alcohol wasn't actually sold, but in that sort of situation, it would be the staff on the site and the owner. In this case, it sounds like that would be Mr. Kapoor. So I hope that clears up, but again, we've got two other lawyers present. I'll just see if there's any difference of opinion around that.
I concur, Neil.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine.
Thank you. Right, if we get back to this, are there any other questions for the applicant? Yeah.
Hi, good afternoon. Can I ask a question, please? Sorry to go back over ground that's already gone over, but I'm just trying to get clear into my mind. So, at present, you don't own the shop, is what we've said. Did I hear you right when you said that you already own a shop?
I have worked at a shop which is Indus Fresh. It is in Woodley.
So you've worked at a shop, but
Yeah.
you've not owned the shop?
Yes.
Right. And what is your employment background, your career background, job background?
I am an IT consultant.
IT consultant?
Yes.
So you've got no knowledge in how to run a retail shop of this type before? You've got no experience before, other than working in this shop? Sorry, what was the name of that shop?
Indus Fresh.
And what type of goods did they sell?
It is a retail grocery and it has alcohol as well.
Right, okay, and you were an employee there?
No, I used to work part-time there.
Right, and how long ago was that?
From 2022 until today.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
And currently, you have been popping in and out of Brecon Food and Wine.
Yes.
So how often have you been going in there? Have you been going in there daily?
I at least try to make it 2 or 3 times a week.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
So you're not in there on a regular basis to see what's going on?
No.
Okay. Are you aware of the historic issues around that premise before, if you're a Woodley resident?
Yes, I am.
So you understand it's a hotspot area
Yes.
for behaviour of a certain type?
Yeah, especially the school and the Angels kids around there.
Right, okay. So if you go ahead and purchase the business, how many, will you be in there full time? Will you give up your IT job and go and work there full time? Or will you be employing a manager to work there?
There will be people to work there. I will be there every day, probably in the evenings once I finish my work.
So you'll be continuing to be work in IT?
Yeah.
And this would be a sideline?
Well, I wouldn't say sideline. If I own the business, it's mine. It's for kind of full time. I finish here and I go there.
Right, okay.
So-
But who would be put in charge to run that business?
So there would be staff that I would employ to run the business.
And would any of the current, did we mention the current members of staff that's there at the moment? Are they going to be continue to be employed?
One of them maybe,
Right,
yeah, because
Okay.
he knows the shop well. He knows how to stock and run the till and everything. So initially, I need someone who's run the business, who knows or who is experienced and who's seen the customers.
is that Sundeel?
Maybe, yeah.
Right, okay. I met him when I did my compliance visit and he was struggling to understand English. So there would be a concern there.
Yeah, then probably we'll
with
have
regards
to,
to, he was unable to answer any of my questions with regards to age-restricted products and was not clear at all on any training or what his requirements were or responsibility was. So that would be a concern to me.
Yeah.
And I believe that he's been working there since August. So if he's potentially going to be your new manager, I wouldn't be happy with that.
Well, then probably we'll change it. Yeah, we'll have someone who can communicate well and at least answer the questions that have been asked. Like you said, he wasn't able to communicate well, so probably we'll put someone in place who can communicate well.
Because when this particular premise, as I said, it is in a hotspot area, it is a historic problem premise, sadly. As a new applicant, you've got a perfect opportunity to turn this business around and ensure that it does comply with the law. You have to be there to be able to ensure that your staff are able to carry out its responsibilities as the licence and objectives clear and robustly. They need to be confident in what they're doing, confident in being able to challenge members of the public that come in and try it on. And a clear message needs to be sent out to the members of the public that that premise will not tolerate children, youths hanging around the front, trying to attempt to buy products. The current staff that's in there at the minute have been unable to achieve that. And that would be my concern.
Sure, we'll try to address that, definitely.
And also, it would be my concern, I appreciate what you're saying, is that you work, you know, in your IT job, and is that Monday to Friday?
Yes.
Sort of 9 till 5 sort of type job?
Yes.
So when you first take over, if you were to purchase this business and you started to take it over, you know, I'm concerned as to how much time you would be able to be put into that when you're actually working a full-time job as well.
I don't live too far away from the premises, so I'm always available to be there when required, and otherwise when I finish work, I'm definitely there, so that I understand the whole day's operation, what's going on, and make sure that whatever you have addressed, like the hotspot area for the youths to hang around, that can be controlled.
Because certainly there is discussions out there, isn't there, that the shop will sell to people that they know, for example, and there are issues there that you need to have a strong management in place and not be somebody that floats in and out here and there, you know, for an hour here or an hour there. You know, the manager, the owner of the business needs to be stood there supporting their staff to be able to turn it around. And again, that would be, I would be raising my concerns. You need to have a strong manager if you're not going to be able to be there, who is adequately trained.
Yes, whoever we hire, who is a good communicator, we will try to train them to the highest standards.
Right.
To ensure your concerns, we would be happy to put in a condition that the old staff would be replaced. No old staff can remain at the property, because I understand your concerns where there's a communication barrier alongside not being able to identify age-restricted products and give you information on that. So to replace old staff.
Exactly, as my colleague was saying, you know, with Mr. Kapoor's involvement, he's part of the old management regime, shall we say, you know, and obviously it's the concern is what we've raised already with his continued involvement in the business.
No, I completely understand your concern. If the license was to be granted, like we said, he was going to fully take over the premises and the property. Mr. Kulbir Singh Kapoor will have no involvement. To put in a condition, he will be banned from the premises, including the current staff that's at the property that is obviously managed or hired by Mr. Kapoor. All the new staff that is to be employed, if the license was to be granted today, would have to be personal license holders. Therefore, they have taken that alcohol retailing training to ensure that all the age-restricted products, selling, retailing, they are complying with, to assure your concerns. That is something we'd be happy to propose today.
Could I ask you something? You said you work for Deloitte at the moment?
Yes.
Do you have permission from them to have a second job?
So the permission is that it should not be conflicting. So if this is not conflicting and this is not between 9 to 5, which is affecting their job, I am fully giving my 100% to them. And anyways, this is like an intellectual property which I'm not using anything of theirs into this, then yes, I do have 100% permission.
Are there any? Yeah, go on. Sorry.
Chair, just quickly, just to Ms. Cow, I'll phrase this question very carefully. The exchange there, my colleague, is it Glenda? Sorry. Glenda was asking about the staff, and I think you said, well, we'd be happy for there to be a condition that the staff were not there. Are you happy you got your client's instructions with regards to that?
Sorry?
Are you happy that you're instructed to provide that condition?
Yes, because when we first earlier met, he did say he wanted to replace the staff,
Fine.
but he was a bit unsure. But obviously now hearing the concerns, he has said he would like to replace the staff anyways. So I know he'd be happy with that condition.
I just want to make sure,
You can ask him as well,
Mr.
not a
Bahar is
problem.
the one who carries the condition with that. Thank you very much.
Yes, sure.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Bahar. Thank you, Chair.
Are there any other questions? Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. Can I just ask, so obviously as public health, our concerns would mostly be concerned with public safety and protection of children. So can I just ask about your plan for training staff? Have you scoped out a particular training program that you would be using, and how soon, if the license were to be granted, would that training take place?
The training would take place as soon as possible. The first and foremost important thing is to make the staff aware of their do's and don'ts and the products that they can sell to whom and whom not, especially verifying the ages of the people who are trying to buy alcohol or any tobacco products, even the lottery as well, and then learning the ways to operate the CCTV and how to look out for the premises and whom to say no and what to log and whom to refuse. Things like that would be the utmost priority for training. And then later on, if there are any good programs for them to be trained to, then I'm happy to send them there.
So who would be providing that initial training?
So initial training means all that, whatever I've just said. So I can do that myself because I'm aware of those, what are the do's and don'ts, what kind of IDs they should check, photo IDs, maybe driving license or provisional license or passports or any European photo ID cards. So things like that, I can give them that information.
And how often would you look to refresh your staff training?
Well, probably I think I should be refreshing them every week because it's a thing that they should be reminded every now and then. So, yeah.
But in a formal way, how often would you look to refresh
In a
that?
formal way, if I still have the same staff who are there, then probably 3 months.
Thank you.
Neil?
Apologies, just coming back to the staff training, the proposed conditions that I sent to you, that is covered off in there. That's not something you can do. The proposed conditions that I sent during the consultation period, yeah, there is a condition on there around staff training, which means they need to be trained up to a certain level. That isn't something you can do. You're not qualified to do that.
Sure, I will follow your instructions.
Carry on.
And Chair, apologies if I'm going slightly back over ground that we had previously. I just want to be clear. Mr. Bahar, you mentioned that you've got experience of dealing with licensed premises elsewhere. Can you just again confirm, where is that? Where did that take place?
It was in Woodley. There's a store called Indus Fresh.
And when did you start working there?
In 2022.
Okay, are you still working there now?
I don't work there formally. I'm in and out of the store.
Yeah, but you said you worked at that store. How often per week were you working there from 2022?
Over the weekends.
The weekends?
Yeah.
Was that every weekend or every other weekend?
It's not like I go in every weekend, no. It was on and off.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
And were you selling alcohol in those premises?
Yes, the premises has a premises license for alcohol.
Yeah. And so you presumably you're doing that under the authority of the DPS and
Yes.
the premises license. Okay, that's fine. And you've just qualified. You've just got a personal license from Wokingham Council.
Yes.
That's it. So I'm trying to get across what's your experience as an individual of the Licensing Act. So is there anything else you want to add to that with what I've just asked you in terms of your experience of the Licensing Act?
No.
No. All right. Thank you very much. Thanks, Chair.
Sorry, yeah, I've forgotten as well now. So would anybody else like to speak? Do you want to give your, or talk about your comments, or are you happy to just leave it on the record?
Yeah, I think most of what I've put in there has been covered, but very briefly, the things that I've highlighted really is to bring into question who is running this business. Now, I think that's basically been answered today. It's not this gentleman here. It is still being run by Mr. Kapoor, and as far as I can see going forward, I believe that will remain the case. But what I've provided here is my suspicions about the application in its entirety. As I say, it starts off by saying that it's already been sold, when we now know that's not the case. The timing of the application is a few days after Mr. Kapoor was convicted of the stolen goods. The consultation period expired a day before the magistrate's appeal hearing, which was subsequently withdrawn. Obviously, the intention basically was to get a new licence to take over from the old licence to allow this store to continue trading without any loss of business. Now, it's something that unfortunately has been identified, and there is work ongoing to try and shut this loophole whereby the transferring of a licence or changing, during enforcement action would become prohibited. That's what I sent you in my submission, which was a letter from Leeds City Council. I refrained from sending you the 95-page document that went with it, but that really is what is going on. And to me, this is exactly what this application is. It's trying to deflect from the enforcement action to get another licence in situ so the business can carry on trading. And, there's just, the visits that people have had to the premise, and the staff don't know it's been sold. They have to phone a friend. They can't provide a licence when they're asked to provide a licence. These are very basic requirements of running a business, and continually the business has failed. I mean, you said you went in there and you were trying to assess the level of sales from a profiteerial point of view. I mean, that's not just observing. I mean, I thought the staff would have been asking the question as to who are you? Why do you think you can look at till, registration, takings, paperwork, accounts? It just doesn't add up completely to me. It just does not add up. I'm sorry.
Anybody else would like to speak?
Chair, I think each party needs to make their representation.
exactly.
So I don't know.
Was that was? I presume that was Gary's representation.
That was the police.
Yeah.
Yes. So
who else would like to?
So I don't know if anyone has any preference. I don't know if trading standards wish to go next, or if public health wish to go next, or licensing. It's a matter for you, Chair, as to.
I don't mind. Start there.
Thank you. I'll just refer to the papers that were sent out. So the representation was made by my colleague, Susie Watt. And just to note that when the representation was made, our team weren't necessarily privy to all the kind of background and evidence that has been provided by police and trading standards colleagues. So there were just a few comments to submit. should the license be granted. So one was, as we've discussed, making it a condition that the previous owner would not be involved in the business. Another condition around alcohol meant for personal consumption, not to be held or stored on the premise. A recommendation that the applicant has a clear complaints handling process in place and a refusals logbook available on request. I believe evidence has been submitted on this point. Prevention of public nuisance, so ensuring that the staff policy and training on responsible alcohol sales has taken place. And on the protection of children, a condition that children should not be able to access the alcohol, beer, and wine sections if not under the supervision or care of an adult. I'm not sure how practical this condition is. I haven't been to the store myself, but those were the comments from Public Health. And also, we just clarified that as far as we were concerned, this was a license just for in-person sales, not online sales. And as I've said before, I think in terms of public health, our concerns, our main concerns lie with public safety and the protection of children. And I think there's also something there around, a legal responsibility, but there is also a social responsibility around protecting members of our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair, can I just add as well, what you should do is also
Just
allow
to ask
chance to ask any questions.
Do you have any questions?
No, thank you.
Okay. Do you have any questions on the police's comments?
No, thank you.
Thank you.
I'll just refer to my notes if that's okay. As we all know, Trade and Standards are a responsible authority as defined in the Licensing Act, and our overall principles of our service is to ensure a fair and safe trading environment. We wish to support those businesses who are good for our communities. Good businesses provide a service, they provide employment, they contribute towards taxes, and they have a positive effect on society. The last thing that we want to do is hinder a good business. So just like the colleagues in public health and the police, and other regulatory bodies, we embrace a stepped and measured approach into tackling issues and preventing breaches of the law. So when we received your application, we thought, right, okay, before we'd even begin to consider whether we can approve it or object to it, we wanted to know what new measures had been put in place to prevent and to meet the licensing objectives, and to continue with the to prevent the continuation of previous issues, and to go along and protect children from harm. So when I visited the premise, I was disappointed, because I have to say that when I received the application form, I assumed that you'd already took over because of the wording in the application form said sold. So I thought that Mr. Kabor was well gone, that he was no longer part of that business, and that you were full-heartedly now the owner and running it. So when you put in an application form, I expected to see the measures that you'd written within that application form to already be in place. I didn't expect to go there and not find them to be in place. Because to my mind, if you're putting in an application form that you want to rely upon and have some credibility against, that you would already have done that work and have already had it in place, so that when a compliance visit was carried out, that would be, here we are, this is what I mean to do, I've already implemented it, this is how serious I am about it, because the aim of the job is for you to get this alcohol licence. So I was very, very disappointed when I arrived there to find that none of the measures had been put in place at all. The staff, as we've already mentioned, were inadequately trained into age-restricted sales. There was no refusals log, there was no documents of training records. So there clearly was not a sufficient system in place to prevent the age-restricted sales, which gives me little confidence that the historic issues that have been documented with this premise will be prevented under the new management. I don't think it would have been unreasonable for you to have had that conversation with Mr. Kabor when you were putting that application form in, to say to him, right, let me see what systems you've got in place. You've already stated that you've had experience with regards to working in the retail and selling alcohol, so you know what's required. So why didn't you take those steps to go ahead and with Mr. Kabor and say, right, I'm going to put this in place, you know, I want to take over this business, I want to do this, and make sure that those measures were already in place when you put that application form in. It is your responsibility, Mr. Bahora, to have in place a sufficient system to prevent criminal offences from occurring. By not having a sufficient system in place, then I'm afraid you're not acting responsibly. I'm still unclear as to the involvement of Mr. Kabor, I have to say. I still find that confusing. I've not got a clear picture in my head. Is he involved? You know, will he remain involved? To me, he is clearly involved, as we've all seen and heard today. And it seems that it's on the bravado that if you get this licence, then you will only then go ahead and purchase, and you will then only go ahead and put all these measures in place. Well, as a regulator, that's very difficult for us to get on board with, isn't it? You know, because that's on a wish and a prayer, as far as I'm concerned, and it doesn't give me confidence. As I've already said, as a new premise licence holder, it is the opportunity to turn the business around, to ensure that you comply with the expectations of the law. By having in place a strong, robust system and trained staff that can be quick to help is absolutely paramount. You know, you need to send that clear message out. From a trading standards point of view, you know, we're looking for strong management, we're looking for a refusals log, we're looking for certificated, documented training system in place for underage sales for all staff, as well as that training to be refreshed every 6 months. I don't want it just to be I stand there and I'll tell them, don't sell him, don't sell that, this is 18, that's 18. I don't want that. That's clearly not work and will not work in this situation. And that's all I have to say. As I say, I'm afraid I haven't got 100% confidence that anything will change. Thank you.
Thank you. Would you like to ask any questions or say anything?
No, thank you.
Neil?
Sorry, Glenda, I've just got 2 questions. First one, in your report, you said, I today visited the store. Which date did you visit the store, please?
So I visited the store on the 28th of January.
28th of January, thanks very much.
It was the 28th of January, and that's when I spoke to the person in charge, was Mr. Kamor. He was the only member of staff there at the time.
I'm just checking the date, that's all.
Apologies,
So no, that's fine. And the other one, just really making a point, really, but on behalf of Mr. Bahara, because I appreciate the point you make about in the form, he said, in words, I've purchased the business. So I can see from that point of view, you're going into that visit thinking, okay, here's a new owner. Putting that aside, though, isn't it a bit unfair to put this on Mr. Bahara? Because there's a situation where he could have come to this hearing today and said, I'm putting a new application, I'm taking over the business if I get the authority. He doesn't have any legal responsibility up until that point because he's not the premises licence holder, doesn't have to uphold the licensing objectives, and he's not the owner of the premises or the owner of the business. So I'm just putting it back. Do you think maybe that's a little bit unfair to put those responsibilities on him? Because legally, I'm not sure they do fall on him squarely.
From my point of view, when I received the application form, it said that the business had been sold to Mr. Bahora. So I went along there with the assumption that he was the current owner. Nothing gave me any indication to say that he wasn't the owner, including the staff. So as far as I was concerned, if any offences were going to be occurring on that day from a trading standards point of view, it would have been Mr. Bahora because that was the paperwork that I had received.
I'm just maybe putting a scenario to you, which is it's possible in this situation that you could have a completely fresh applicant here today who could say, well, actually, anything that went before today isn't my responsibility. That's right. I mean, you know, as I sort of said earlier on, you know, we're not here to,
you know, sort of hinder good businesses or to, you know,
Yeah.
prevent it from going ahead. You know, sort of what we're here to do is to ensure that all the historic issues that have occurred with this business stops.
Yeah.
And that Mr. Bahora is able to put in place a system, a sufficient system, that demonstrates, you know, that he has taken the responsibility.
Yeah.
And that was my forethought when I went into that shop at that time,
Yeah.
checking against the conditions that had been added to that licence. Well, sorry, not the licence, the application.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you very much.
Okay.
Thanks for answering those questions.
Well, I'm going to be speaking on behalf of the Licensing Authority, and I'm going to refer to two documents which are before everybody in any event, and that is those that can be found at pages 73 and 74 of the pack, and also the letter sent yesterday from Kieran. And I'll just briefly highlight what is said for the record. So, Kieran wrote as the service manager for licensing, and formal representations were made on the part of the licensing authority, and those representations were made in time.
Chair, I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm very sorry to interrupt. Is there any chance of a very short break, just for a few minutes, please? So sorry about that, everyone. Excuse me.
Yeah, fine.
So, shall we give a time then, Chair?
5 minutes enough? Yeah. Are you ready to resume, Gert? Licensing. I think we're back on again. Just give... you okay? Start again? Yeah. Licensing.
So, Chair, I was just at page 73 of your pack and highlighting that Mr. Hinchcliffe, as Service Manager for Licensing, made formal representations during the consultation period. And he highlighted that the content related to the application for a new premises licence, and that the licensing authority strongly objects to the granting of this new licence. So the licence previously was operated under a premises licence which was revoked by a licensing subcommittee in May 2025, and that was just for the benefit of everybody here, that was made up by different members than those who sit here today. And that was appealed, and the consequence of appeal is that if the appeal is made in time, that licence remains live until the appeal is determined. And the final hearing for that appeal was supposed to be the 5th of February of this year. On the 4th, that appeal was withdrawn, and therefore there has been, since that date or the day after, depending on the calculation of dates, no premises licence in place. And the licensing authority are keen to emphasise the context, because the premises has been operating under intensive scrutiny and has continued, they say, to perform poorly across all regulatory standards. So this was in relation to the previous premises licence, but there were numerous visits, and the concerns have included overall poor management, no staff training records, no refusals register, a lack of required documentation, and an absence of clear management or responsible oversight. And I do emphasise that this was in relation to the previous licence. However, as we've heard today, and as I'll address further in closing, Mr. Kapoor is still involved in the business. So I just make that point here. On the 30th of January, Mr. Hinchcliffe himself visited, and he spoke to the shop assistant. The shop assistant on that occasion indicated that he'd worked at the shop for 6 to 7 months, and there was a new owner named Mr. Vivek Mahara, who had been involved for approximately 3 months. Mr. Hinchcliffe spoke to Mr. Bahara on the telephone, and he confirmed that Mr. Kapoor, the previous licence holder, still helped with cash and carry for the business. He stated that the DPS, in relation to the DPS, he was still using Mr. Kapoor's personal licence until the council approves a new licence. And on that occasion, Mr. Bahara on the phone said there was no written contract in place detailing the use of an existing premises licence, and that the licensing authority hadn't received an application for a transfer of the licence. So there was concern on that occasion that the information provided didn't meet a lawful arrangement for authorisation to sell alcohol. And Mr. Bahara had, on that occasion, on the telephone, confirmed to Mr. Hinchcliffe that he was the new owner of the business, but that Mr. Kapoor's involvement was limited to helping with cash and carry. And he also indicated, as he has done today quite openly, that if the licence was refused, Mr. Bahara said he wouldn't be interested in the business. Mr. Hinchcliffe observed during that visit that the premises was very small and cramped, and it appeared unclear and poorly maintained and below expected standards for a Wokingham Council licensed premises. In relation to the current application, Mr. Hinchcliffe raises a number of concerns. At that time, it didn't name a designated premises supervisor. When the licence was applied for, Mr. Bahara didn't have a personal licence. He does today, so it may be that that issue is no longer live. The application describes a new business, yet the applicants state the previous individuals remain involved. In my submission, that remains a live concern today. There's no evidence of training, policy implementation, or any steps taken to address conditions proposed by Thames Valley Police. Now, indeed, it's been raised that Mr. Bahara comes to this new, fresh slate. Why should he do this? He doesn't have the licence at that point. However, he indicates he is the new owner in conversations. And in the submission of the licensing authority, that is very, very confusing at best. And it's also raised in this representation, the history of the premises raises clear concerns about continuity of poor management and lack of responsible oversight. And in the submission of the licensing authority, given what we've heard today, it's my suggestion that this situation hasn't improved. And indeed, still, it's very unclear about who's doing what and when. So no proactive or meaningful steps have been taken by Mr Bahara to demonstrate the conditions can or will be adhered to in practice. And again, I revert to the point very validly made by your legal advisor. Why should he? He's not the licence holder at the moment, but he's holding himself out as the owner. And this is his opportunity, and it was in the preceding weeks his opportunity to demonstrate how he could act as a reasonable and responsible licence holder. Now, Mr Hinchcliffe refers to a risk to the licensing objectives, and he suggests in his written submission that based upon all the evidence, the licensing authority as a responsible authority is not satisfied that this application promotes the licensing objectives. The prevention of crime and disorder, and I disregard the no lawful DPS because that situation would no longer be live, but there is a lack of training and or compliance systems and a continued involvement of previous problematic individuals, and I say that is still very much live. In terms of public safety, inadequate premises condition, and indeed when I turned to the letter sent yesterday, in my submission that's actually got worse, because regardless of whether the items on the floor are alcohol or not, one cannot simply place items on the floor in front of fridges. That's a huge, huge hazard in terms of the safety of premises. No staff training or safety procedures. In terms of prevention of public nuisance, there's no credible operational controls or management structure, and there's lack of clarity around waste agreements. In terms of protection of children from harm, there's no refusals register. The one presented when Mr Hinchcliffe attended had dates from 2024. There were no entries at all throughout December 25 or January 26. No Challenge 25 training and no safeguarding measures. And what's recommended on behalf of the licensing authority, taking into account the recent revocation of the previous licence, the very late withdrawal of the appeal, the ongoing management failures, the lack of training, policies or compliance systems, conflicting accounts of who's running the premises, and indeed in my submission that is a sustaining concern. The poor premises condition, indeed, as at last week, that was a concern, and the clear failure to demonstrate any readiness to uphold the licensing objectives. The licensing authority submits that there's no confidence that granting this application would result in responsible or lawful alcohol sales. On behalf of the licensing authority, it's recommended that the licensing subcommittee refuse this application entirely. And if I could just follow on from that, yesterday a further letter was sent highlighting 2 visits after the close of the consultation period. And they were visits effectively commissioned by the licensing authority, but they weren't carried out by Mr Hinchcliffe. And that has been sent to everybody concerned. Members, it should be a separate document in front of you with some colour photographs. And this is a letter sent to Mr Bahara because, of course, until today, Mr Bahara was representing as owner, both on the telephone and indeed through his application. So Mr Hinchcliffe wrote to Mr Bahara as owner, and he highlights that there were 2 visits, and those 2 visits both took place after the premises ceased to be licensed. So that was on the 4th/5th of February. So on the 17th of February, no alcohol was visibly available for sale. Mr Kumar confirmed he couldn't sell it, so those are plus points. However, the refrigeration units containing alcohol were present on the premises. They were covered by grey shutters, but the alcohol was still there, effectively on the shop floor behind those shutters. and it was confirmed that they would be removed by the 23rd of February. A follow-up visit was carried out after that date on the 26th of February. Alcohol remained on the premises, the alcohol remained covered and was not openly visible. The shop owner stated he was unwell and advised alcohol would be cleared from the premises by the 6th of March. And licensing wrote this letter because there are concerns that the presence and storage of alcohol on the premises in circumstances where there's no premises licence in force may amount to an unauthorised licensable activity. And this, if proved, would be a criminal offence, of course. And it was highlighted that the display, storage or availability of alcohol for sale, even when covered or not actively sold, may be considered evidence of an intention to carry on a licensable activity. And what this letter required is that all alcohol be immediately removed from the premises, including any storage areas, and ensure that no alcohol is sold, offered for sale, displayed or stored at the premises unless or until a valid premises licence is granted. And the letter goes on to suggest that there may well be prosecution and confiscation of the stock if this doesn't happen. So the licensing authority would say that despite the fact that Mr. Bahara has suggested that he's the owner, there is still a situation where nobody can be satisfied as to the ongoing compliance in terms of regulatory matters in relation to these premises. And trading standards have already pointed out that there have been numerous concerns in relation to the management of these premises over the past few years. And Chair, perhaps you and your colleagues could look at the photographs appended to the letter of yesterday. And you will see the photographs are dated, and despite the fact they were covered by the curtain, and indeed on the second photograph from the 17th of February there is an example of the curtain used. It is the submission of the licensing authority that these shelves are clearly stocked and ready for sale, and no attempt has been made to clear them or remove them. And this is a large quantity of alcohol, not a small quantity of alcohol that's accidentally been left behind, but a large quantity of alcohol with no efforts whatsoever. If people are employed in the premises, there's no reason why these can't have been removed, regardless of illness of anybody, be that Mr. Kapoor or Mr. Bahara. So that concludes the licensing authority's representations, and we would ask those representations are taken into account when considering whether to grant the premises licence today as applied for by Mr. Bahara.
Thank you. Has anybody got any questions on the panel? No? You got any questions or comments?
I would like to make some comments, thank you. So obviously it has already been clarified, and I know in the application it was very confusing to be seen that the premises had been sold, but it had not been sold. Mr. Bahara intends to be the new owner, subject to the premises license being granted. The previous mistakes, I do appreciate those concerns and obviously the mistakes and the historic failings of the premises, but they were taking place at the time of Gulbir Singh Kapoor. Mr. Bahara had no relationship with him or had any involvement. If the license was granted today, Mr. Vivek Bahara, with immediate effect, would be responsible for the premises. There is no evidence yet to show that Mr. Bahara would have the same failings as Mr. Kapoor, which is why he would like to take a chance and take on this license if it was to be granted and take over the property, like I said, with no involvement of Mr. Gulbir Singh Kapoor. The full £40,000 would be paid, a lease would be signed in due course, there would be a ban of Gulbir Singh Kapoor and old staff, and he would look for new staff. And during the small 5-minute break we had, I was able to speak to Mr. Bahara. Something that we have tested out in other boroughs, I'm not quite sure if it would work here, but due to the nature and the representations made by all the authorities in regards to the youth, public safety, and especially in terms of underage sales for children, they would employ 2 staff during school dispersal time, during term times of the borough. So that would probably be a period from 2 to 5 p.m. This is to ensure that there's always one person at the till, at the counter, and one person around the store. So like public health public safety mentioned about not having children going towards alcohol sections. Now that wouldn't be really possible if it's during school dispersal time when schools finish, and kids were to go into a shop just to get a chocolate bar. But if they happen to go around the alcohol, that would sort of be breaking their condition that they have offered. So it would be appropriate to have another staff member to maybe make sure, or at least help around to ensure that no disturbance or nuisance is created, or any underage sales or kids trying to buy anything that's not appropriate for them. So that's something we would like to propose if the license was granted. Thank you.
Can I just clarify, was that the closing statement? Because obviously you've heard the representations, but then I believe all parties would normally make closing statements as well. So I don't know if Democratic Services and your legal officer agree with my understanding of that.
Yes, you have opportunity to sum up.
Just to add, I think there was just a bit of latitude to Ms Corns making comments in response to what Rachel put forward. So the next stage, I think, would be moving on to closing statements, presuming that you've got no questions for the licensing authority.
Right, okay. So everybody who is an interested party has made any submissions they wanted to submit, and they've had the opportunity to be questioned. So closing statements, is there a particular order these should be done in?
Chair, if I can just sort of clarify, looking at the hearing procedure, we've got down to 11,
Yeah.
and then 12 through to about 16 are very much sort of rules to apply in the course of keeping things moving along. And then I think we're at point 17, Chair.
Yeah. No, I'm just, I understood that. It was just which order that people go in this order. It's obviously the applicant
Chair,
last.
yeah, applicants last. Yeah. Other than that, I'd just go around the table.
Start with licensing and work round again?
I was a bit worried you might be bored of my voice, but so the Licensing Act 2003, as you'll be very aware, encourages a permissive regime and encourages the granting of premises licence without an overburdening of regulation. And the presumption is in favour of licences being granted. And indeed, had there been no objections or no representations, this licence would have been granted as a matter of right. And it is correct that this is the regime, but we need to consider what has been put forward in relation to this and why the licensing authorities say the licence shouldn't be granted. Now, Mr. Bahara indicates that the sins of the previous licence holder shouldn't be visited upon him. He's a different person and he plans to run things in a different way. And that is admirable, and that is within the spirit of the Licensing Act, and on the face of it, the licence should be granted and he shouldn't be burdened with those sins. But on behalf of the Licensing Authority, I'm going to suggest, can you be satisfied on the balance of probabilities as to what on earth is going on here? Can you be satisfied that Mr. Bahara does come to this completely fresh and that Mr. Kapoor is going to have nothing to do with it? The application was put in, clearly, a specific representation was made at page 14 that the business had been sold and that Mr. Kapoor will have nothing to do with it. That wasn't necessary. That isn't a standard question on the application. That was a representation that was made to suggest that this would be a fresh licence and a fresh situation. Mr. Bahara could have made that application without putting those words in, not necessary at all. He was quite entitled to apply for a premises licence. But has been sold suggests something, and I would ask that when you're considering this, you think about the use of those words. Not will be sold or might be sold, but has been sold. Then you were sent, by way of supplemental papers, a management agreement. That management agreement is possibly one of the most concerning things that has been seen in terms of the content. That suggests that, despite not being signed, but it certainly suggests there would be an ongoing relationship between Mr. Bahara and Mr. Kapoor. And breaches in terms of licensing are still to be reported to the owner, Mr. Kapoor. It suggests he's still in control. Financial records are to be made available to Mr. Kapoor. Stock to remain the property of Mr. Kapoor. And either party can terminate on 90 days' notice. That is not a sale. And indeed, we've heard today, when challenged, that yes, that agreement will be in place because it reflects what was verbally agreed, but only until the lease can be sold, and then it won't be in place. So if this licence is to be granted, make no mistake, at the point of grant, that agreement or something very similar will be in place, because that is what you've heard today. And doubtless Ms. Kaur will correct my submission if I'm wrong in relation to that. But that is what we've heard today. So immediately, this new licence starts with Mr. Kapoor still having a guiding and controlling hand, even if we have a different DPS on board. And then the sale will take place at some point after, when a lease can be agreed. In my submission, this is smoke and mirrors, that's not necessary. An agreement in terms of the land to rent the premises could be drawn up in 5 minutes on a precedent agreement, or perhaps it could take a little longer if it is to be specific in terms and negotiated. But I'm going to suggest to you that that hasn't been considered, and indeed it was only today and orally that you've heard that that would be in place, followed by a lease which will take some time to put into place. It's a movable feast. Why is this relevant? I say you can't be satisfied that regulatory requirements will be followed if Mr. Kapoor is still in the picture. I say you can't be satisfied Mr. Kapoor will be out of the picture. There is simply constant shifting. Indeed, officer visits that you have seen evidence of today appear to suggest that Mr. Bahara was already holding himself out as the owner on the telephone and to staff. And yet we've heard orally, before this was flagged, that none of the staff knew about this. Also, there is a somewhat cavalier attitude, I would say, to regulatory requirements, now not directly relating to the licensing objectives. However, I will get rid of the staff and get new ones. This suggests no plan, no thought as to how to bring this business up to scratch in terms of regulatory requirements. Indeed, Mr. Bahara said that he would train people himself because he could do it, despite only just being granted his own personal licence and having never held such a position before. This again suggests a cavalier attitude, with conditions being proposed on a pepper potting method throughout the hearing, responding to concerns, as opposed to drilling down and considering how to make this business better. In the submission of the licensing authority, there is simply too much risk that the licensing conditions will be offended if this license is granted. There is no distance between the new applicant and Mr. Kapoor, whose license was, of course, revoked, and he stands convicted of an associated criminal offence as well. So I'd urge you not to grant it on the basis that you can't be satisfied that the licensing objectives won't be offended. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I hear from Trading Standards, please?
Sorry, I didn't realise I had to do a closing speech. So,
You don't have to.
From a trading standards point of view, obviously I've already highlighted our concerns and gone through with Mr. Bahora, some issues that I needed to try to confirm in my own mind. We are, as I mentioned earlier on, Trading Standards is here to support those businesses that are good for the community. We don't want to hinder good businesses. We want that premise to be turned around. It's good for the community to have a local shop there that is, able to sell all produce that they wish to purchase. But that has to be done lawfully. And it has to be done responsibly, and to be able to do that, it has to have a sufficient system in place to enable that to be run responsibly. And by not having a sufficient system in place, it's not being shown that it's being run responsibly. I know at the moment, Mr. Bahora has not had that opportunity, shall we say, to run it properly, be full-heartedly into the business, so he's unable to provide us with any evidence of that. But from my comments from earlier on, it would have been reasonable for some measures to have been put in place prior to the application. I appreciate that you haven't currently purchased it, and it is all up in the air. But as mentioned earlier on, I do feel as if that it would have been reasonable steps to have taken. We are here to look for a due diligence system, shall we say, and those steps to have been done, or at least started. So from a trade standards point of view, the conditions that we would be looking at would be, the refusals log, certificated documentation, for underage sales to be in place of all staff, a refresher training every 6 months, and a strong, clear management to be there at all times. And that is my concern, that Mr. Bahora appears to be have got a lot of jobs on the go, and his time may not be able to be dedicated to Brecon Food and Wine as to what I believe that premise needs. That's it. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, our representation was obviously all around what we perceived to be the attempt to circumvent the revocation of the licence, and I think that is quite clearly what's happened, or is what has been attempted in this case. Even if one point I didn't make earlier was the fact that when we were in negotiation for the conditions to be put on the licence, I literally sent an email with the conditions to the licensing consultants. You can see that it is in there in the notes. It's quite an extensive list of conditions, kind of thing that you need to discuss with your client and to obviously get their agreement to think that they could put those in place. They're a lot more stringent than what is in on the application. Again, what I'm saying here is it took 14 minutes for the response to come back and say these had all been accepted. And we've heard the applicant today talking about he's going to do his own training, when it clearly states in that document the training has to be done to a certain level. It's more evidence that gives me no confidence, I'm afraid, that if you grant this licence, we're going to see the improvement we need to see. And that's really where we stand. We, Thames Valley Police, don't believe this licence should be granted. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I support the comments of my colleagues. I have nothing further to add.
Thank you. In our closing, we would just like to submit that Mr. Bahara is the new, well, if the license was to be granted, would be the new owner. The decision should not be based on the previous mistakes of the previous license holder. Yes, we understand Mr. Kapoor has been the property owner and premises owner till now, but yeah, if the license was granted, then that would change. We have obviously proposed conditions and offerings to ensure the concerns of the responsible authorities. So in terms of the training, and also in the likelihood that Mr. Bahara does have a 9-to-5 job, he is an IT consultant, he would not want to be involved in any criminal offences or anything that would then harm his current job as well. So he wouldn't want to disrespect the license objectives. He would want to uphold them to his best and make sure that he remains compliant, because it wouldn't only affect his business, but it would also affect his job if anything was to go wrong. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that's the end of the hearing. Thank you.
I'll just add that the decision will be sent within 5 working days.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.